Hey, Ariel, how's it going, man? You right?
I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, all good my end. Little shocked from a slightly early rise, but that's okay. Nothing I can't handle.
Thank you. Thank you. I was like, I was just going to thank you for that. And I was going to say, like, I have a beer. Maybe you can have coffee. I don't know what your rules are around. There you go.
I'm way ahead of you. You can have a beer if you want a beer. There's no rules against that.
Okay. I figured as a good British guy, you wouldn't object to a beer.
100%. I encourage it. Quite the contrary. So before we get into it, what's been going on at Hivemapper? What's been keeping you busy?
There's always some things that are working and some things that like I wish were going faster. In terms of what's working on the customer side, like a lot of stuff is starting to happen on the customer side, and we just made a couple of key hires as well on that side.
Nice.
And so, really, really happy with kind of some of the momentum on that side. On the product side, you probably saw like a lot of the Map AI stuff where people are starting to see like what's been happening behind the scenes, so to speak, with Map AI stuff. So that's really awesome to see.
Awesome. I guess a little bit of context, Ariel, for the viewers. You and I first met. It's coming up to 2 years. Now. New York City, I think it was a Helium event, and we actually did our very first interview the day that we met, or maybe the day after. So I'm looking forward to looking back sort of the past couple of years since that interview, seeing what's changed, and seeing what's coming up in the world of Hivemapper as well.
Yeah, no, I remember that well. It was a muggy New York late summer day. So coming up on 2 years. Wow, that's crazy. I'm excited to jump in.
And a lot has changed since then. I got a few statistics down preparing for our chat today, and I look at them and they still kind of blow my mind. So in less than a 2-year period, we now have 25% of the world's roads mapped by Hivemapper, which is the one that really blows my mind. We then got 15 million unique kilometers mapped. As part of that, nearly 300 million total kilometers mapped. So those figures, like, they still blow my mind to this day. It's been a huge journey, testament to the hard work that you guys at Hivemapper are doing, and also testament to the hard work the community's been doing. On that note, massive shout out to all the Future Networks drivers. I know a lot of you are tuning into this as well. So as I said, looking forward to reflecting on that. I guess that tees me up for the first question, Ariel, which is, of this journey so far and all those amazing achievements, has there been anything along that journey that has really surprised you the most?
I think Burst, so Burst is this feature where you say, okay, I'm going to pay like a little bit more. Basically, I'm going to put down a incremental honey token reward for a specific location that either I want that map faster than usual. In other words, like I want the refresh rate to be really high, or I'm looking to fill a gap in the map. And I knew it would work, but I just didn't appreciate, or I was surprised by how quickly it worked, and how amazing it is. Like I just put a whole bunch down in LA. I was working with this customer, and I just put down a whole bunch in LA in this like random residential neighborhood. And like within, I don't know, an hour, they were all done. And I was like, that is really awesome. That's really cool. So I knew it was going to work, but I didn't think it was going to work that well. So that was definitely a big one. I mean, I think the cool part is the community. Like we kind of joke about this, right? The community is the community, and like you have all these different personalities from all over the world. People in it for different reasons. They care about different things. They come at it from different projects or different backgrounds, and they're all kind of like in Discord, and it can get a little chippy in there every so often, but it is kind of fun to see that, just to like hear the voices behind the people who are excited and engaged, or, even sometimes pissed off about something, which is also fine. I like that part's really cool. That part is a lot of fun.
Yeah. What are the real key differences that you see between leading a Web 2 business and a Web 3 business like Hivemapper?
I think it's the emotional aspect of it. Like, because crypto is so emotional, our project also has some of that emotion in it. And look, some of that is good, right? Like emotion is passion, and passion directed towards the right kinds of things is an incredibly powerful tool, right? And the flip side of that is when it turns just kind of toxic, it just becomes a waste of time, right? That does not really exist at all for the most part in Web 2, projects. In crypto and blockchain projects, it can like literally flip on a dime, right? You could be like, oh my God, this is amazing, this is amazing, and this is amazing. Oh, this is the worst thing ever. Everyone here is idiots. Everyone's a moron. And then like 2 days later, oh my God, this is the best thing ever.
Yeah. And sometimes depending on outside forces, maybe like overall market conditions, which has absolutely nothing to do with the project as well. I mean, it's a double-edged sword, isn't it? Because it's the very thing that makes DePIN possible. If we bring it back to DePIN, it's like the token incentivization. That's what really, gels the community together, gets everyone working towards the common goal. But that's also the same thing that can kind of flip sentiment and cause that passion that you just spoke about. Do you feel, is that one of the more difficult kind of components of scaling a DePIN project, managing that community sentiment, or has it been more the tokenomic side of things?
Good question. And like in terms of, tokenomics for sure, like you have to kind of think through that and make sure, the incentives make sense, and you have to, tweak them and understand what the issues are and so forth. The community and community management and community sentiment and all that kind of stuff, and, responding to the questions and issues of the community. Like we spend a lot of time on that. I think that is definitely, different. There's also legal aspects of it that are quite a bit, you just have to like literally constantly be checking with lawyers, like, hey, can we do this? Is this allowed? How do you think about this? And so those are certainly issues that are different than Web 2 for sure. I mean, look, I think it's changed a little bit. Like last year, especially in the US, like anybody involved in crypto stuff or blockchain was like default, like just a bad human being, like you're just like, must be like, FTX and that whole craziness. This year, I think the sentiment has changed, right? Where it's like, no, this is like really important. Both political parties here in the United States seem to be like coalescing on like, hey, we need to invest in crypto and blockchain technologies. Not everything will work. We need a regulatory framework. Like we need to US needs to be strong and forward leaning in terms of adopting this technology and vetting it and making sure that if there's something really there, that America leads. And so I think that's changed. But dude, last year it was like, it was a tough time for sure.
Yeah, scaling the DePIN projects or the DePIN side of things, one thing, but then at the end of the day, you have an underlying business that you also have to scale. In Hivemapper's case, I'm sure the legal aspects to it are far more complicated than other business models. So at the end of the day, it's like you have to do all the DePIN stuff, but then you also need to focus on the fundamentals of the business, which is, I guess, the main thing in some ways.
I mean, to be very clear, I spend like 95% of my time on the core product, and basically what I would be doing is if Hivemapper was only Web 2, right? In the early days it was a little bit different, but like now for the last at least for the last 9 to 10 months, it's been like product, customers, technology, recruiting, all the basics that you would do regardless if it's like Web 2 or Web 3.
Yeah, totally makes sense. One more note, probably interesting for other DePIN founders who are thinking of setting up a DePIN project. If you could go back in time to 2 years ago, is there anything that really stands out in your mind where you would go back and do something differently? Maybe a mistake along the way that other founders could kind of avoid making?
It's a good question. I think we made a mistake in terms of the side camera, right? Like the side camera on a random, I don't know, like Highway 80 here in the United States in the middle of whatever. I don't know where Highway 80 runs through, but like Wyoming or Utah, rural Utah or something like that. There's no value, right? And I think that was a mistake to reward those. And that's fine. I don't think it like hurt that much, but just kind of going back, I would have not done that. It was really intended to be like much more like a city thing than a rural thing.
Yeah.
So there's definitely like a whole bunch of mistakes like that, and I'm sure we'll make more. Like, we'll make hopefully new mistakes, not old mistakes. I think that the B, I would have done this. I would have gone directly. We launched Hivemapper Dashcam, and then I would have gone directly to the B rather than do S. We learned a whole bunch of stuff from the S, but I think we knew a lot of those things. And I think we would have gotten to passive a little bit faster, maybe like, 6 to 9 months, maybe even 10 months faster, if we would have skipped the B and skipped the S model and gone directly to the B.
Yeah. And I think, look, the point that you made about the side-facing camera is actually a really good one. It's that difficult balancing out between, balancing the community's, I guess, immediate focus, which for a lot of people are, people are concerned with how many tokens am I getting on a weekly basis, and then balancing that with the long term, the longevity of the project. As a project, you don't want to be issuing tokens that aren't, and rewarding people for not providing any value to the map. And then a side-facing camera, as you put it, in the middle of a highway in I don't know where, that's providing no benefit to anybody. So you have to make the difficult decision to, okay, this may affect people's rewards, but in the long term, it's going to be the best thing for the project. So it is that balancing act, I think, that it comes back down to. So when we last spoke, you said that one of the goals was to get the dash cams deployed and then also have a 360-degree camera on the top, and then also have some traffic pucks as well for monitoring traffic. Is that still on the roadmap, or have we moved away from that? Has the strategy changed slightly? Maybe you can expand on that one.
Yeah. I don't think we'll do the puck. I think we can get a lot of the data that we want from people's phones. So let's take a step back. The puck was really around basically providing traffic data, right? Yeah. Like you want that layer, which we'll ultimately want to provide. We're already getting customers asking us about that, et cetera. So we definitely want that data, but I think we can get it from your phone. So I don't think we'll do that. I do think that we need to continue to invest in devices that can be mounted exterior, right? Yeah. So B is one. And, I think the question is like, what comes after that? I mean, look, you've probably seen the data, the imagery of what comes out from a dash cam that's mounted exterior versus interior. It's dramatic, right? It's dramatic visually, but it's also dramatic in terms of the positional accuracy that you're getting. And so that push to continue to get a device or devices that can be mounted exterior, et cetera, I think is something that we're going to do.
That makes a ton of sense. And I've got a few more stats. Everyone loves being quoted from the past. So I'm gonna pull something up from our last interview. To really
you should be like a political reporter, like asking, hey, you said this in your campaign. I like it. Let's do it.
I don't want to come across like I'm interrogating you at all, Ariel. It's meant to be more of a casual.
I have a beer here, so it's all good.
Yeah. It was something around the number of devices that we need to put pressure. So you said to put pressure on Google Maps, we need around 500,000 dash cams live and maybe 10 to 15,000 360 cams. In terms of the quantity of cameras needed, is that still, do you think, reasonable at a global level if they're well spread? Do you think you can do it now with fewer cameras? Do you think more is necessary?
Good. That's a very good question. The number is probably lower than 500,000. But it really, okay. So if you think about it from this perspective, there's 3 different kind of markets that we're going after, right? We're competitive in 2 out of the 3 right now. In other words, we have like real customers using it. So one is like B2B, where customers are consuming our map data in a whole variety of ways. And there you can be competitive you don't have to have all the layers of the map, I guess is the best way to say it, right? You can have certain layers of the map where you don't need 500,000 devices. The second big market that we're attacking is effectively self-driving, ADAS, basically automotive, right? That's a big market. It takes a long time to kind of get entrenched in that market, but and it's only growing, it's only getting bigger in terms of the capabilities that we can provide. So that one definitely benefits from more devices out there because it's much fresher, it's much higher quality, et cetera. You probably don't need 500,000. I mean, it depends like which regions of the world that you're really going to be really strong in. You probably don't need 500,000, but it's not 50,000 either, right? You probably want closer to like 200,000 to 300,000, somewhere in that range. If you wanted, okay, then you take, full-blown consumer navigation app on a global level. In other words, you have something that is competitive with like a Waze or a Google Maps on your phone, and better, then yes, I do think you need closer to like, 500,000 devices, on a global level.
Okay. That makes sense. That's, I guess, what we need to be creating an awesome product that the various customer segments will want to consume. And so on that note, I'd love to talk a little bit more about some of the things you've been focusing on in your tweets, which is kind of the Map AI side of things and that map features that Map AI is adding. And you said that in your opinion, actually what Map AI is doing is even more interesting than just the street level imagery. Could you expand on why that is and what's going on with the Map AI features behind the scenes?
Yeah. So, I mean, imagery is cool, but imagery takes a lot of energy, right, for a human being to then look at that imagery and then determine what's going on and then determine what decision to make. Human beings or even other machines need information, right, to be able to make a decision and then make a correct decision, right? So let me give you an example. Being able to look at, like, let's say an image of road construction, or like maybe like on your route, let's say there's like 3 different places where there's road construction, okay? And then in order to assess whether or not you want to actually take this road, you have to look at whatever, 5, 6, 7 images to determine how bad the road construction is and whether it affects navigation. What do you really want? You want to basically say, okay, the map will tell you there's road construction on your route. There's 3 different locations. And by the way, it's going to take 20 minutes extra, or 30 minutes extra, right? Mm-hmm. And if you're really curious, then yeah, you go look at the imagery of that, but you want to just know, like, yeah, because of all this road construction, it's going to take me 20 minutes less. That's what you really want. Yeah. And in order to do that, Map AI has to extract out, okay, this is road construction. Okay, there were 3 lanes that were available usually. Now it's down to 1 lane. Okay, that increases the amount of time that you're going to need to be able to get through that road segment. And then here's another, construction work zone, and so forth and so forth. Mm-hmm. And so that's really what Map AI is doing. We're at the very beginning of this, where we're providing, speed limit signs, stop signs, turn restriction signs. So it's really starting to build out the foundation of the map. And there's more. I mean, there's more map features. I think we started doing like red light cameras and stop sign cameras, and then we'll start to do lanes and all this kind of stuff. We do a little bit of road construction as well. There's a lot, right? There's, I don't know, probably over 200, 300 map features that are on our roadmap just today. Mm-hmm. But that's the valuable stuff. Images are the raw ingredient into that. And so I think that the right way to think about imagery is like, it's just a raw ingredient, but it has to go through, many steps after that.
It's what makes everything else possible. I love it. In the example that you gave of like the roadworks and then Map AI calculating how much more time it's going to take on that particular route based on roadworks, would that be done by Map AI based on, okay, maybe there were 3 lanes, now there's 1, so we're going to approximate that it's going to be 3 times or 3 times longer, or whatever the maths might be? Or would that be based on the traffic park kind of system, based on the flow of traffic? How would it come to that calculation?
Yeah, so that's an excellent question. So like the Map AI will basically, what its responsibility for is detecting the road construction, and then also detecting where it starts and where it ends, and then how many lanes it impacts, right? That's its job. And then basically that data is then handed off to a routing algorithm, and the routing algorithm will then have to determine, okay, with that understanding that in this road segment, I'm only have 1 lane versus usually 3 lanes. And also, to your point, other traffic related data that may also come, the routing algorithm kind of combines all those different data sources. And then we'll have to make a decision as to like, okay, you're going to be delayed. If you take this route, you're going to be delayed by 20 minutes. So it's not just Map AI, but Map AI is a critical part of providing the really valuable data to the routing algorithm to then make that determination.
And then based on the fact that the raw data, I mean, the map imagery is what makes that possible, that's when it becomes very exciting, because literally no other company or no one else has the kind of data that Hivemapper is collecting and that kind of refresh rate. You're always talking about the refresh rate. I think that's an amazing example that brings to life exactly why the refresh rate is so important. And that is super exciting to be sitting on an asset like that.
Yeah, exactly. Like what everybody is doing today is they are utilizing just GPS traces to try to figure out what's going on, right? So they're saying, okay, well, traffic is slowing down on this part of the road segment. It usually travels at 40 miles an hour. Now it's going 10 miles an hour. You know, they may ultimately figure out, like after days of seeing like there's always traffic on this, that it's road construction. But initially they may think it's, you know, police activity, right? Or a car crash, or it could be flooding, or it could be an object, right? There could be 50 other things that it could potentially be. And so, you know, what we can tell you instantly is like, boom, because we see it, we have eyes, in other words, the imagery, we can tell you exactly what it is. And then we can make much better decisions as a result of that. And then once that construction is going away, right, you know, construction road work hopefully doesn't stay forever. Once it goes away, we know, okay, boom, it's no longer there. This road is now clear.
Yeah, and then the map AI algorithms that it's doing the calculations based on can be refined and improved over time as well, based on past data. And I can think of a ton of companies that might find that interesting information to have, which segues us nicely onto the client side of things. I'd love to talk a little bit about progression there. I know that obviously in a lot of cases you can't name specific names, but is there a segment of customers who will and do find Hivemapper's data interesting? Is there a segment of those that really excite you the most? Maybe you give us a breakdown of what that kind of landscape looks like.
Yeah, I mean, look, there's okay, so a couple of things. One is a lot of the data evals that we did last year are now turning into contracts. It will take some time, to be clear, in terms of, you know, getting them, you know, fully signed, and then getting the technical integration done, and then, you know, them ramping the consumption of all the data that we're providing, right? And we also have to, you know, ramp the production of a lot of data that we provide, right? So, you know, speed limit signs look different in Italy than they look in the United States, right? So there's all these little nuances that we continue to improve and continue to get better at in order to satisfy some of these customers, right? And we're hard at work on that. We've been hiring a lot of engineers to continue to support that and so forth. And it's going extraordinary. It's going well. And so, yeah, a lot of those customers that we did data evals for last year are now turning into contracts. And also we are expanding into new customers to do data evals. And so what we're really working on right now is effectively trying to shorten the process, right? So a customer comes in, okay, we've seen this before. We know exactly what you want. You want to do a data evaluation, boom, 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 boom. Here you go. You know, let's review what you found. Okay, let's explain, let's have a call, whatever it is. And then we can move you along that process faster, right? It's beneficial to the customer, it's beneficial to us, right? Like no one wants to stay in forever in a data eval process. Mm-hmm. And then there's another aspect of it is from a privacy eval, especially the larger companies, they want to do a very thorough privacy eval. And we spent a lot of time, you know, with government regulators, with our lawyers, you know, with our engineering teams, making sure that everything was buttoned up. So we're also moving through the privacy evaluation process a lot faster than we historically did. Mm-hmm. Okay, so that's you know, that's kind of what we refer to as like the big enterprise customers, right? Customers that can spend a lot ultimately. Then there are smaller customers, and what's been really cool, this is very exciting for me, is they've kind of just found Scout on their own, right? Mm-hmm. And it's kind of cool the way they find Scout. Yes, they find it through Google. They find it through like Twitter and social media and all that kind of stuff. But some of these customers are also finding us through ChatGPT.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Cool. So they're like, you know, like, hey, I'm whatever in state of Mississippi or whatever, you know, and I'm trying to do this, and you know, here's what's going on, and whatever. ChatGPT is like, oh, okay, you should like check out Hivemapper. And awesome. Yeah, it's like, it's very cool. And so, and they're like, this is amazing. Like, I didn't know this exists, and like this product's really easy to use, and like, you know, they love it. So
can you give us examples of like what a company like that might look like? The smaller side who just wants that raw info?
It's, you know, it's crazy. It's like all over the place. So it's like obviously real estate, commercial real estate, residential real estate. We just published a blog post today in terms of Scout real estate, like how people are using the real estate industry, outdoor billboard advertising. So like all these companies that run ads for big companies, they need to go and verify that the ads was actually, you know, properly placed. They oftentimes want to share that, you know, image of the location back to the client itself. The client sometimes runs their own verification process as well if the ad campaign is big enough. You know, there's another one which is like parking spots. This company that does like trucking parking spots, and they're looking for like new parking spots, parking locations for their big trucks. Then obviously like government, so we like state government, city government, local government. You know, they have a host, you know, like, hey, I got to look at every single fire hydrant in Chicago, like literally. Hey, I got to check out like every bus stop in the city of San Francisco and like just determine whether or not it's still in good condition or if it has like, you know, the glass has been broken or whatever, right? Like that kind of stuff. So, you know, and we also see like just also larger customers starting to like, they use Scout to figure out whether or not Hivemapper in general is legit, right? And which is cool, right? And so they're kind of using it as an initial data evaluation process. And some of them are like, holy shit, this is really cool. And so, you know, the vision for Scout is that people will be able to just ask it questions, right? Today, what do? You go in there and you know, say, okay, I want to like monitor these 50 locations or these 1,000 locations or whatever. And then we provide a really good interface for, you know, looking at the imagery, and it's optimized for that, right? And that's great. But what customers really want, let's take us back to the bus stop, right? What they really want is they want to literally go into Hivemapper and say, find me all the bus stops in the city of San Francisco, right? And then they want to say, okay, you find them, boom, here you go. Here's the 800 bus stops in the city of San Francisco. And then here's the supporting imagery if you want to go in and look at the imagery of every single one of those bus stops, right? And then they want to ask like, okay, like, are any of these bus stops in bad condition, right? Are they broken or whatever it is? And they want Hivemappers to just tell them the answer, right? Amazing. And so you can almost think of like Scout becoming like a search engine, right? Or ChatGPT, whatever, to like just ask questions, right? And Map AI obviously is a critical unlock to make that happen, right? Because you need the, you know, Map AI is extracting out all the information and then making it searchable, making it queryable by people.
Amazing. And will you be training eventually your own LLMs to be able to just intake that user question and output an answer with images?
Ultimately that's the vision, right? Is like, boom, here you go. You know, images is like supporting, right? So like, if, you know, if they want to like dig into a specific issue, okay, so let's say 20 of the bus stops in that example, that use case are messed up or whatever it is, boom, they want to go in and look at that, right? I mean, we've even seen like big car companies, they're like trying to figure out like what's going on, you know, at specific locations related to their vehicles, right? I can't go too much into like the specific use case, but like there's a whole bunch of different use cases where those companies, insurance companies, car companies, et cetera, are looking for like specific locations where there's issues, right? And they'll just say like, go find me, you know, these types of issues on the road, right? In this, you know, area. And the issue, and what they told us is like, we love this concept, but like, we don't know where those locations are, but you can find them for us. And if you can find them for us, that's awesome. That's really cool.
Yeah. Amazing. I'm starting to kind of understand when you were saying that it's the AI features themselves that are actually the cooler part of this. And then the imagery is just the supporting, I guess, the supporting images. That makes a ton of sense now. And yeah, it's super exciting. You guys also have your first specific client case study, which was with the Dutch company here, if I'm not mistaken. And that's been like 2 years in the making. Can you tell us a bit about that?
So great company. Look, they're owned by the large car manufacturers. And, you know, we started working. I mean, they've kind of known me for a bunch of years just because I've been in the mapping industry, logistics, and, you know, so they've kind of definitely known me. But the relationship has grown, and now we're kind of working towards kind of the next set of products that we can be working on together. So kudos to them for kind of doing that case study with us. I really appreciate it. But I'm frankly more excited about the things that we're currently working on than like the stuff that we kind of shared publicly. But I'm pretty excited about kind of some of the things that we got going on with them.
Yeah, I mean, in the client acquisition side in general, I think it is super exciting. Really looking forward to sort of seeing what other innovative use cases come out of it. And all of that hinges, of course, on building the best product that we possibly can build as a community, which at the moment, so the focus on the product side to make this all possible seems to be the B. So maybe we can talk about the B a little bit, why it's so important, why people should be excited about the B as a dash cam.
Yeah. It's a big unlock. So it's an unlock in terms of moving 100% of Map AI, which today happens on our servers, or I shouldn't say all of it. There's a portion of it which happens on your device, on the existing devices, and a portion of it which happens on our servers. So it's kind of split today. What this will do is basically take 100% of it and move it to Map AI. Mm-hmm. And so that is A, more cost effective, right? B, it is a better experience for drivers because you're not sitting there uploading all this data. So for example, you're driving, Map AI is saying, okay, I've detected these, 50 new objects on this road segment. Sorry, not new, 50 objects on this road segment, speed limit sign, stop sign, lane definitions, parking restriction signs, billboards, all, you name it, right? And then we'll say, okay, well, only one of those things is actually new or changed since somebody drove it yesterday. So just send us that one piece. That is a tiny, tiny amount of data relative today, where for one road segment, we're probably uploading, 1,000 images, right? Like 2,000 images, a lot. And so it makes the experience better for the driver as well, because, if you have the LTE version, or if you have the Wi-Fi version, the amount of data that in general, not 100% of the time, but in general, people will have to upload is going to go way, way down, right? And then in terms of uploading imagery, it has the AI on it, the compute capabilities to determine, look, yeah, we would like new imagery for this road segment, but you were driving into the sun, right? And the image is all washed out. It's kind of crappy. You know what? We're going to wait for somebody else to drive it when they get a cleaner take on that specific road segment, right? So that means is we're going to be uploading much higher quality imagery because we just won't upload stuff that we don't like, or that's not good, I should say. Obviously the LTE we think is a huge unlock for commercial fleets. Like, I think you've had a little bit of experience with this, like trying to sell the existing dash cams into commercial fleets. We had no success with it, right? And the reason is because what the commercial fleets do, so let me just define what I mean by commercial fleets really quickly. It's like, I got a pest control business, right? Or I have traveling nurses and they have, I provide them with a vehicle. I just want to install this dash cam in it. And I never want the driver to have to do anything, right? That was basically the core requirement that we had. And we couldn't satisfy that requirement with the existing devices. Now with the B, we can.
Yeah.
And so that unlocks the commercial fleets for us, which we think is important in terms of growing coverage, stable supply base, which we can talk a little bit about, et cetera. And maybe even a new revenue stream as well, ultimately for some of the larger, fleets. But what we got to provide something in value, right? They're happy about the maps part of it, but like the reason they're going to buy it is because of the safety capabilities. So what do I mean by that? If your driver is driving like an idiot and tailing people, we can tell you that now, right? Yeah. If your driver took evasive action because, again, he's driving like a moron, we can tell you that. If you're just trying to figure out, a lot of these fleets, they let their drivers, take the car home at night, right? But they say like you can't use it for personal reasons. So you just drive it home, park it at your house, and then next day when you continue, working, you take it out again, but you get after your own car for personal use. And so they can monitor whether or not people are using it for personal use or not, right? That kind of stuff.
Yeah, so it's basically getting a dash cam that's competitive on the market as a commercial fleet dash cam that companies would want to use, regardless of the crypto side of things and earning honey tokens.
Exactly. Well said. Yes.
And why is the commercial fleet side of things so important, you think, for scaling the map?
They just drive a ton. Their business requires them to be on the road. And so because their business requires them to be on the road, it's a very consistent supply base, and the right kinds of fleets. And we talk a little bit more about this, what I mean by that in a second. But if you have the right kinds of fleets, they also go into parts of cities that like you and I never go to. Like we don't have a reason to go to the cargo section of, London Heathrow or whatever, SFO or whatever it is. And so, but there's a lot of commercial vehicles that have a very good reason to go behind into that part of the city. So I think that's another aspect of it. In terms of the stable supply base, look, that we will always want the crypto enthusiasts, the consumers, the individual drivers. They bring passion. They're willing to try new ideas out. They bring just word of mouth. There's a lot of, they provide us with criticism. A lot of them do bursts very quickly. So there's an incredible amount of value. And also, I think we got to hold these two thoughts in our head at the same time. They're much more emotional and much more impacted by crypto markets as a whole, right? Whereas the commercial fleets, they don't care that much about that. That's not why they're buying the device, right? That's like icing on the cake for them. Mm-hmm. And so it does provide a more stable supply base. And if we want to get to those numbers that we were talking about before of, 250,000, ultimately 500,000, I don't think there's enough crypto enthusiasts to get there.
Yeah, I mean, as you said, the commercial fleets, they're just on the road a hell of a lot more. So if you want the coverage, then that seems like a logical route to go down. Do you think that the benefit if we take the individuals, is the benefit to them for the B also just that it's going to be functioning easy, it's going to take less kind of like hands-on attention, or is there any juicy alpha you can give us in terms of approximations in earnings differences between the HDC and the B?
Well, look, I think we've said historically that when we announced the B that it will earn more, and that a lot of people are like, oh, you're just saying that because you want to get rid of the HDCs and like do that. It's like, no, like it's actually doing a lot more work, right? It's taking all of the costs that we currently have in terms of Map AI on server side and moving that to the device, right? And so, of course, it's going to earn more, right? And then we also said that
the imagery is uploading is better quality as well when it comes down to it.
Yeah, exactly. We're uploading better quality. For the contributor perspective, it's just easier, right? And then the other dimension, especially for the LTE, is that it just uploads all the data real time, right? So it's just that's a lot more valuable. Like I'd like to know that the construction roadwork is there right now, this very moment, not like 48 hours later when you happen to upload, via Wi-Fi. So I think that's pretty clear that it should earn more.
Yeah, it makes a ton of sense though, and it comes back to what we were talking about earlier, right? You reward people in direct proportion to the value they're adding. If the B uploads better imagery in real time, which is getting more value for the map, it makes sense that there would be higher earnings there. Cool, amazing. And then final question on the B, shipping. End of Q3, is that still possible? Is that still on the horizon?
I think that'll be tough. That will be tough. So I think we will be a little bit delayed. And the reason for that is specifically all these commercial fleet use cases. They're just adding a lot of complexity to the development process, but also the testing process, right? Like if we're going to tell a commercial fleet, like, hey, these AI events that we stand by, that they'll be triggered. And so we'll tell you when your driver's driving like an idiot. They got to work. And they got to work very consistently. And so it is making it more complicated from an engineering and from a testing perspective, primarily from a testing perspective. And so I think it will take us more time. There's devices now that are being actively kind of put through the paces here in the Bay Area, San Francisco Bay Area, as well as Pittsburgh, which is where we build and assemble them. So everything else in terms of like production, how much we'll, what we're aiming for in terms of, daily output and all that kind of stuff, still, very much on plan. We've hired a kind of technical program manager who was at Cruise, which is a self-driving company. And previous to that, he was at Meta.
Mm-hmm.
So we brought in kind of more senior level folks who are managing this program now. So it's going fairly well, but it will take a little bit more time. So I don't think we may ship a small amount in September.
Mm-hmm.
But I think more likely the things will start to ship in like October, November timeframe.
Okay. And when you need to do some international testing, you can obviously feel free to send one over to Future Networks. I know a ton of drivers who would be very keen to get their hands on one of them. So exciting times. No, I think there's a lot to be excited about. And I guess just to wrap up, I'd love to hear it from you, Ariel. Like, what does the community have to be excited about going forwards?
I mean, look, the Map AI stuff to me is like a huge unlock. And I think we have to do like a better job of explaining that and communicating that, of just how powerful that capability is. And we built you've seen us build like the AI trainer platform that kind of supports that, does the AI training, et cetera. But that engine that is now starting to produce this really valuable data at scale was a lot of effort. A lot of different pieces had to come together to be able to do that, between the hardware, between the AI trainer, between all the software engineering work that we did. And so I think what we got to do is like get people more energized about how freaking incredible that is. Because now we can add new map features like that. Customer came in and said, hey, I want, whatever, red light cameras, or stop sign cameras, or this thing or that thing. Literally, like within 48 hours, we had like a whole data set to share with the customer, and we'll put those on the map and all that kind of stuff. And so the pace at which we're able to now build the map and grow the map and scale it is just huge.
It's incredibly exciting times. That Future Networks have been a massive support of the project from day one, and it's so nice to see the products coming to life now, see all the hard work that everyone's been doing for the past few years coming into fruition. I think there's a lot of really exciting stuff to come in the future, and I look forward to continuing the journey with you guys.
Yeah. I hope we do this like another year, 2 years, and then you're like, hey, Ariel, you said this. Yeah. What I'll say, I'll be like, well, I was drinking a beer, so it doesn't actually count. No, I'm joking.
As ever, I really appreciate your time. It's been awesome catching up. Always a pleasure to speak with you. So thanks a lot for coming on and sharing your insights.
Thank you, man. Thank you, Leo. Appreciate it.
See you soon.